Welcome in, folks. We have a lot of news today. My megaphone has returned this week, where we will cover a lot of things. Ezekiel Elliott, we're going to cover that. We're going to cover Dalvin Cook. Of course, all the news happens in the same day. But luckily, it was the day before we did the show, so we have an opportunity to cover it. I have heard people are saying that they don't like intros. People are saying that. Maybe I should listen. Dynasty trades in 5, gets 700 viewers a week, and we get 20. So maybe they're doing it right and we're doing it wrong. So let's jump straight into the Ezekiel Elliott situation. So he signed with the Patriots on a 1-year deal. It's up to $6 million with incentive, $3 million base, $1 million signing bonus, so $4 million guaranteed, and the rest of the $2 million is incentives. It's not a very big deal, but It's like medium sized, I would say. Probably almost exactly what I expected him to sign for. Like 4 and 2 with incentives is about right. So I have my redraft ranks changes on the show sheet in Dynasty as well. But what do you guys think about Ezekiel Elliott going to the Patriots? What do we think about that?
Honestly, for me, it doesn't really bump Rhamondre Stevenson down that much. I mean, looking at where Zeke could make an impact, the only place he really could, for me personally, is on the goal line. Zeke on the goal line obviously could make an impact because he's a really good goal line back. He's a bigger guy. He's powerful. He's strong. And he took those opportunities away from Pollard a little bit last year. And so Rhamondre might get Vulture some touchdowns this year, but I don't think he's going to take the receiving work. Rhamondre saw 88 targets, caught 69 balls last year. And Zeke took a clear backseat to Pollard in the receiving game last year. So I expect the same to happen in New England. And Rhamondre is just overall a better runner, a better player, and a better everything than Zeke is right now. And the only way Zeke kind of maybe matches him is on the goal line. So that's the only place Zeke will work in. This is more of a depth than anything to me. So Rhamondre is still like a back-end RB1, maybe a fringe top 15 option in fantasy football. He might be a little bit inconsistent because of vulturing touchdowns from Zeke, but I still have plenty of confidence in Rhamondre this year and for the future if he signs an extension with the Patriots.
Yeah. So I barely moved Rhamondre Stevenson. I moved him from running back 9 to running back 10. But I did move him in redraft down a tier. And since most people just draft linearly, that means that I will not have any Rhamondre Stevenson, I don't think. Because I would rather have... He's moved down from the higher tier to the lower tier, where I'd still rather have guys like wide receivers like Olave, Higgins, Devonta Smith over Rhamondre Stevenson, which means I won't have
Agreed. It was always that way for me, though.
Well, I thought that if they added nobody, he would have been in the higher tier for me.
Yeah, I agree with there. I just always expected somebody to be added. I always ranked him for redraft and thought about him for redraft like somebody was going to be added.
Well, there were better scenarios. I mean, it could have been.
Oh, yeah. Fournette and
Darrell
Cook
Williams.
Much worse. Fournette and Cook were worse.
Fournette wouldn't have mattered. Fournette would have been the same.
Fournette, the only thing with Fournette is that he caught a lot of passes last year. I feel like he might work.
But Fournette sucks. I'd rather have the competition in the passing game than the competition on the goal line. Competition on the goal line is bad. That's where the ceiling comes from. If he doesn't score 7 touchdowns, he's not going to be top 8.
I think he scored 6 last year. Actually, he only had 5 on the ground, 1 in the air.
Yeah, but he was in points per game. He was like RB 13. He needs to have more touchdowns in order to have that top 5. I mean, if you draft him at RB 8, he better have a top 5 ceiling in points per game. He doesn't have that now. I think it's gone.
Yeah,
that's the thing that I do like though is hopefully with the Patriots moving on from Matt Patricia and their offensive coordinator. Just total crapshoot that was last year where they were stuck throwing screen passes and balls 5 yards downfield. Hopefully that'll open up the run game more for Rhamondre Stevenson so that his yards per carry should increase due to not seeing such stacked boxes and stacked fronts as we saw last year when people played the Patriots.
Yeah. So
he's a guy that for me, I kind of had him in that like redraft 12 to 14 range already. So I feel like I'm kind of with Hutch. I didn't really adjust my rankings with him, I kind of feel like I built in, to your point, Hutch, like somebody coming in. I know there were better situations that could have happened, but I still feel like Zeke has a lot of wear and tear on those tires. I don't think we saw the same explosiveness from him the last 2 seasons. So I actually feel like that's one of the safer ones. Like if Dalvin Cook goes there, I'm much more concerned than I am with Zeke Elliott, actually. So.
Yeah, I just feel that Ezekiel Elliott is something, as would Fournette or Hunt. To me, they were all the same. Dalvin Cook's the one who matters. Because
Dalvin Cook
Dalvin Cook's the one who matters. We're going to get to that in a second. But, I'm not really – I think people overthink these things. They overthink, oh, well, it's going to be this type of role. Oh, there's going to be competition. There's going to be competition, and, it's going to be some sort of competition. I think Zeke, Fournette, and Hunt had about the same left in the tank. Zeke played the best of the 3 last year. So he would be the one I'm the most concerned about. Hunt was the worst by far.
Oh, easily.
Fournette was kind of in the middle. But, that would be a concern. Not a big concern. Now, what about Ezekiel Elliott, though? So I drafted Ezekiel Elliott in Scott Fishbowl at RB, I think it was RB. It was low. Was RB, 54. So I ranked him in PPR at RB 46. What do we think about that ranking?
I think that's fine. I mean, he's got to get goal line work. He could get in the end zone a handful of times, but otherwise I just don't see him making an impact to this offense. So I agree. And if Rhamondre would ever go down, Zeke has a big time role in front of him, but he really isn't going to be a consistent fantasy option at all unless he has a ridiculous amount of touchdowns, which I don't see coming.
I think name value alone is going to drive up his ADP, especially in your casual leagues.
Yeah,
so it's going to be the point where I'm not going to have any.
I won't have Zeke much at all. I don't think he's worth it.
That I drafted him in Scott Fishbowl at RB 54, and I think it was in the 15th round at that price. I like.
Yeah, that's solid. But he won't be there like that in the home league.
I think he's going to go around 35 to 40. I have him at 46. And I'm more interested in Zeke if you're playing in half PPR or standard somehow, if those still exist. Then I would be much more interested. But in a PPR, there's just not much of a ceiling or a floor or anything for Zeke. So pass on him. And then Pierre Strong I had at RB 59 in redraft. I moved him down to RB 66. I do think there's a universe in which Pierre Strong still gets the 3rd down. That would be really bad. That's the scary universe that we live in now. If Pierre Strong is getting receiving work and Ezekiel Elliott is getting
that's a scary world. Yeah.
Then we would have a problem. It's why I moved Rhamondre Stevenson down a tier, because there is that risk, which wasn't there before. That's why I say it didn't matter really who came in, because you could reorganize the roles in whatever way to be a threat. But the threatening thing is always if 2 other running backs get involved. Very few running backs get more than 65% of touches anyway. So it's always okay if there's one other guy getting touches, because outside of even Christian McCaffrey split 65-35 at times. Austin Eckler the same at times.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe Bijan Robinson or Saquon Barkley, even Bijan, I don't know. Is he going to be more than a 70?
Josh Jacobs was up there last year.
Jacobs
he was insane last
year. Very rare. So other than those very few guys, 65-35 split is fine. But the problem starts to come when you get below that. When you get to 60, when you get 55, then you're not going to be an RB1. And the offense is bad. It's not a good offense. So we can't rely on the offense carrying him there. So for me, I'll have no Rhamondre Stevenson now, even though I didn't move him much among running backs. Let's talk Dynasty here. So in Dynasty, I moved Rhamondre Stevenson down from RB7 to RB9 just because I feel like he's older than people think. He's older than Najee Harris, I believe. Or the same month, I believe. Both.
I think that's correct.
I think they're the same month. I think they're both February. Yeah, Rhamondre Stevenson is February 98. So he's already 25. So he's going to hit free agency at like 27. He's already going to be washed up. So he's totally off my board in Dynasty. Similarly, I think I have 23 receivers ahead of Rhamondre Stevenson. So I'm not going to have any. I never did.
I think that's fair, honestly. I think it's a fair rank. I have him ranked right now around, I think in Dynasty, right now my Dynasty rankings have an RB12, actually, just a little bit lower.
12.
Then I'm
What's that?
13.
Yeah, I've got him at 12. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Tyler. I just, after the couple of years, there's just no, it just doesn't seem like he has much potential after these 2 years.
Yeah. So in one QB, I still have Bijan Robinson at 4. And then I have Gibbs, Hall, and Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and then I don't have any other running backs in the first 2 rounds. Saquon Barkley and Travis Etienne are in round 3. And yeah, Jacob Stevenson and Walker are at the end of round 3. So not great about the running back position. As for Dynasty, I have I put Ezekiel Elliott at running back 57. I had him at running back 63 before. The thing is, he got a job where he's going to have a role. So he's going to have a role. So 57 in Dynasty, it's a price. It's a price.
I moved him up. I moved him from like 58 to 52. That's where he's at for me.
Same
now.
move. Different.
Just a little bit higher. Just if he gets in the end zone a few times, that could be valuable. But yeah, there's not much.
And then Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, I moved down, obviously.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna have a role.
Yeah, they're in trouble. Kevin Harris, especially. There wasn't ever really a thing, but
no, he's bad.
He's bad. Yeah, there's no upside here whatsoever for him.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's interesting. Let's move to a couple of the chat questions. I think we've covered Rhamondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott very well. We'll move to a couple of the chat questions, and then we'll come back to Dalvin Cook and the Jets. So, first question from Patrick Asdell. I don't know who that is.
Ooh.
Michael Wilson or a random 2024 second? Okay. Michael Wilson is on this show sheet somewhere. It's such a long show sheet, I can't find it.
Interesting.
But I will say that I'd just still go with a second.
It's tough. It's close because Michael Wilson, the thing is, when you look at him specifically on that offense, he's like the only receiver. I think he's the only like receiver of relevance above 6 foot. Like they have a lot of smaller guys, Marquise Brown, Rondell Moore. He's like the only receiver that's like a bigger guy, which makes him, really intriguing for that offense this year. And he seems like he's torn it up at camp and make really, really good impacts for them so far. But I would agree, if you can get an early second in a super flex, that's not.
Here's the problem
for a dart throw.
Here's the problem. I think that they're going to retain Hollywood Brown. Right?
Yeah,
they're going to retain him.
They'll keep him.
Michael Wilson will be there. Rondell Moore will be there next year. But
Trey McBride.
Trey McBride. But I do think they have a lot of extra draft capital. They are a team. Let's say they had the first and the second pick.
Stack Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they could trade Kyler Murray away for even more picks. So,
yes.
Michael Wilson, I think he's going to flash. But I don't see a universe in which Michael Wilson is the one next year.
No.
I think that's either going to be Hollywood Brown, who did not become bad. Hollywood Brown is still good.
Yes.
And I think Hollywood Brown, as long as Hollywood Brown exists, will be better than Michael Wilson will ever be. Or if they somehow let Hollywood walk, Hollywood will be replaced by someone even better than Hollywood Brown, which would be even worse. So Michael Wilson, we'll have to see. I like him, but not paying a second for him. What is this?
Let's answer this one while we're on the Cardinals.
Yeah,
what can we expect from Trey McBride? Hutch, I know you went in on him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm a Trey McBride fan. I mean, I'm just like I'm a guy for a dynasty specifically. I'm trusting the talent of Trey McBride. I mean, he put up over 1,100 yards in college in a single season. That's something that most tight ends are never even able to do in college. I mean, that's unheard of at the tight end position. So I am pretty in actually on Trey McBride. For redraft, it's fine. I mean, the offense is really, really concerning this year. I'm hoping for Dynasty, I'm hoping to hold on for the next couple of years, hoping they find a quarterback in the future. And Trey McBride will be then established as a better option in this offense. But I like Trey McBride a lot. He's a really talented, athletic tight end. And again, 1,100 yards in a college season, you can't deny that. The dude can produce.
Unfortunately, I have a bad feeling that this year is going to be a lost season for Trey McBride.
This year it could be tough. This year could be really tough. The offense is just a disaster.
And on top of that, I think his value is going to go down because he's going to be so bad. I have him in redraft at tight end 20. I've moved him down because Zach Ertz is going to be playing week 1. And Zach Ertz, while he is washed, will receive snaps. The Cardinals, looking at their offense, they have a lot of smaller wide receivers who must play in the slot, right? They must play in the slot. Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch are players that are tiny. And Hollywood Brown also could be used in the slot. They're not going to run a lot of 12. So that means that every time that Zach Ertz is on the field, which will be time, Trey McBride will not. So even if Zach Ertz is bad, it's going to take playing time away from Trey McBride. This is a horrible offense to begin with. I have him at 20. I have Luke Musgrave in redraft ahead of Trey McBride. I think there's a ceiling. With Trey McBride, there's no hope for me.
It's funny, even though you do have him at tight end 20, you do have him in front of ADP. His ADP is even lower than this.
It's even lower
redraft.
than that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think,
his ADP is like
I
10,
think that's the
25.
kind of thing that
You can't find him on
casual
ESPN.
player don't.
Yeah, you can't.
Doesn't
He's
know
gone.
who Trey McBride is.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't done anything in the NFL. But
I have him at 25, actually. I have him very low myself.
Lower than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have him in the late teens as well. I just don't expect too much this year, but I think in Dynasty he's a valuable. Like I agree, like you might want to buy him low later next season. It might be more valuable to do that because he might be even cheaper. But if you have him in Dynasty, I would be holding on rather than selling.
Yeah. I would
He's
agree with
worth
that.
it. He's worth it. His talent will win out in the end. I think his talent's going to get there for him.
Yeah. I just don't really want to pay the price unless it's really cheap.
So we have a 10-team
Absolutely
super
agree.
flex. Aiden O'Connell, Cortland Sutton, Keontae Ingram, 2024 2, 2026 third for Gabe Davis, Kendre Miller, and Bailey Zappi.
Miller, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
That's-
I mean, I guess.
It's the Miller side.
I'd rather have Kendre Miller over the second. I'd rather have Gabe Davis over Sutton. And then it's close. It is close.
I feel like there's
Rather
a
have
lot of
Zappi.
split swapping.
Yeah, this is just silly.
Yeah, there's just nothing like
There's
why.
nothing
you
interesting
doing
to
that?
say about this trade.
Yeah,
Let's
no.
move on to something else.
It's the Miller side.
So Deuce McAllister, not the retired guy, but actually Deuce Vaughn, rookie running back for Dallas, looks like a young Darren Sproles. What can we expect from him?
We saw this question and we were like, is there a Deuce McAllister in the NFL that we don't know? I know the previous, but is there currently a Deuce McAllister? I was actually not sure. But go ahead.
What can we expect from him, and what is an appropriate round to draft him for Dynasty rookie drafts?
Not much. And whatever round he's being drafted in is too high. I still only have him in Dynasty at RB58. I don't see it at all.
Me neither. I think what people aren't really paying attention to is that a lot of camp reports as well are saying that Malik Davis has been doing really well in camp. He's showing out as the number 2 running back
Rico
for the team.
Dowdle is the RB2 right now. That's what it says.
Yeah, there have been good reports about a lot of Dallas backs, and Deuce Vaughn is one of them. So I'm not really in on Deuce Vaughn. I still am taking shots at Malik Davis. He flashed a little bit last year. He looked.
I have
really
not
good
ruled
in
out
touches.
that Leonard Fournette could be on his way.
That is also a possibility. That Leonard Fournette could be a Dallas Cowboy, and that would be a disaster for any of these backups. Yeah, that'd be a disaster.
And he belongs
there. Where did Deuce Vaughn go to college? Kansas State. Who else went to Kansas State? Darren Sproles. Do we have Darren Sproles 2.0?
I thought we were going to say you.
No. Is it Darren Sproles 2.0? I mean, he's that little back that could be fun. I mean, he looks.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing it either.
He's small for me. I'm always a size guy when it comes to even the receivers. That's why I never really liked Elijah Moore coming out of school. So I'd be out on him too. But I'm just fun comparison with the Darren Sproles.
Yeah, I don't hate him, but I'm not super in because I just think that this is his chance to get a role. And I think if he doesn't get it, they'll just find someone else. But I always liked having running backs. And to move to this question about rookie diamonds in the rough, I always like having running backs down there. So that's why Deuce Vaughn was a popular pick for me previously. Yeah. Now he's too expensive. But previously, I liked him at his cost.
Yeah.
I mean, his July ADP is 230th overall. That price is great. That's not going to be his price in August ADP.
No, absolutely not.
To answer this question, I mean, Deuce Vaughn, if he's there.
Michael Wilson, if he's there, but I doubt it.
Michael Wilson, but he's not going to be there.
I just had a 10-team super flex.
He won't be there.
Sunday night.
I got a deep one.
Well, 401 and 402.
Go ahead.
Though. That's not deep. That's 31st and 32nd overall in a 10-team.
Oh, overall, okay. That's
the one that I think could be there that might not have been there originally, but who could be there now is Cedric Tillman. Nothing has been talked about with Cedric Tillman. He basically he had that one catch, right? But other than that, Elijah Moore has been the talk of Browns camp. And Cedric Tillman is not. So he's someone I think that he didn't become bad. I mean, his prospect profile says he's very good. So he would be top of my list. Tank Dell also, but he's not going to be there anymore.
Remember the name A.T. Perry? I'm a big A.T. Perry guy, so that's my deep rookie.
Yeah, that would be for a different question. And I like A.T. Perry, but there's other guys that I like more. That are in the similar group.
This trade is easy.
Specifically, Demario Douglas and Xavier Hutchinson, I like a lot more.
Yeah, those are
and for the record, I published a video saying to add Demario Douglas. You can go check the date in June. So
I think I remember seeing that video actually.
Yeah, the video exists. But the thing is that
you convinced me with it.
I don't have Demario Douglas is a terrible prospect. So why did I publish the video? Very important learning lesson. They were talking about it. The beat reporters were talking about it. And they said that Demario Douglas was good. Same thing with Jaleel McLaughlin. Now people know about him, but you got to do your research and not just ESPN. That's not good enough. You got to dig deep into the beat reporters. And no, not the, thing on Twitter that summarizes it all. That's going to get the top end, but that's not going to get these sleepers. So it's called doing research. It's not very hard. You just kind of look at teams where there's an opportunity for targets. You make those situations. The Patriots wide receiver core, a good one to target because it's so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So those where there's opportunity. Chargers running backs. I should have picked up on this Elijah Dotson situation in advance.
Yep.
That one kind of slipped by me. But the Denver running backs, they have no RB3 there. That was one to look at, for example. Let's move on to this one, which I like. And then, after this, we're going to talk about Dalvin Cook as a part of this question. So let's answer the question first, and then we're going to move to discussing Dalvin Cook to the Jets. So to answer this question, would you trade Breece for a JSN in 24 first? Yes, but I would have done that before. I would have had JSN in 24 first before Dalvin Cook signed with the Jets. So that's a pretty easy question.
It's easy,
Let's talk about Dalvin Cook signing with the Jets. Let's do that. So, Dalvin Cook, 1-year deal, $7 million in guarantees. That's pretty good.
Significant, yep.
Yeah, that's significant. And 1.6 in incentives. Additionally, just to add to the confusion, Breece Hall was activated from the PUP today. So he's going to play. He's going to play week 1. You would think. He's going to play. That doesn't mean he's going to be a starter. It doesn't mean he's going to be effective, but he's going to play week 1. Cook also will not practice immediately. There's a shoulder issue, and he's also apparently becoming a father very soon. So congratulations on that.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
He will not be there for the next couple of weeks or so. It seems like it's going to be about a week and a half to 2 weeks before he's ready to practice. So let's jump into it. So in redraft, we all agreed earlier in this previous segment that Dalvin Cook is better than Ezekiel Elliott. Significantly better. Now, where
Not even the same stratosphere.
I mean, career-wise, yes. Now, Dalvin Cook is a lot better. Career-wise, they both have good careers. But
correct.
Now, Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall. What do we think in redraft? How are we ranking them? Because I think that's the big debate. I think most people kind of settled on similar things with Stevenson and Elliott, but with Hall and Cook, I've seen wildly different takes. So where are you guys?
Honestly, I mean, this is a signing that we should have expected from day one. I mean, the Jets are a very now team with a short window with Aaron Rodgers, possibly 1, maybe 2 years. They can't afford to have a semi-healthy Breece Hall off the ACL be their clear-cut workhorse RB1. They just can't afford that risk. So Dalvin Cook was an easy signing for them. And I think he's going to make an impact in the first few weeks, obviously, especially with Breece getting back healthy. I would expect him to take possibly like a 50% split between Breece Hall, him as Breece Hall of the work at least. Eventually Breece Hall, I think, will be the lead back, but I think this is going to be a frustrating backfield for fantasy because both can take a workhorse role, both can catch passes, both can be on the goal line. There's no like clear cut like role for each of them. It's not like Zeke and Rhamondre where you see Zeke only getting the goal line. It's not like a situation where Gibbs, primary pass catcher, Montgomery, mostly like the goal line kind of work. Like it's not really a clear split. Both these guys can do everything, and they're both great running backs. I think Breece Hall right now is a bit better actually when he's fully healthy. So I think he'll get majority of the work.
More than a bit. Breece Hall, when he was fully healthy last year, was the best running back in the NFL.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. Like he is great. So he will get the majority of the touches. I think at the end of the year we'll have Breece Hall out touching Dalvin Cook, but it's going to be a headache. It's going to be frustrating. I think Breece Hall will be like a mid-tier RB2, like around the 15-18 range, and I think Dalvin Cook will end up finishing just outside the top 24. I think that's where I'd have him ranked.
Breece Hall last year.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. Go ahead. Breece Hall last year, in his 3 best games before his injury, was giving up 8 to 10 touches per game to Michael Carter. And he was still putting up top RB1 numbers. So in terms of will Dalvin Cook's presence and taking carries significantly hurt Breece Hall and the ceiling, I do not think so at one bit. I think the ceiling is still there for Breece Hall to be a top tier RB1. And my bigger concern still is just coming back from the injury.
Yeah. If he wasn't coming back from an injury, I would still have him ranked as an RB1 as well. But the injury, along with Dalvin Cook, possibly just the Jets could just let him sit for a little bit if they wanted to. They could just let him sit and let Dalvin Cook take the primary load of the touches for the first 2 weeks, and that would just kill Breece Hall for his redraft rank for his finish.
I'm not as concerned there because I think that that's already so far baked into his cost that you're looking at getting a potential league winner for weeks 6 through 17 in Breece Hall.
Yeah,
at an RB 15 cost. Absolutely, I will smash that because
I'd be willing to take it. Yeah.
That right there is going to win your league when you know you have someone that's RB1 upside.
Yeah, absolutely. If he goes in the RB 15-18 range, I'll absolutely be very willing to take that shot because the upside is, like you said, very much there. But I would just expect at least to be, I would expect to not want to start him for the first 4 weeks, which when you draft that kind of player in redraft, it's just always not fun. It's just not fun to do.
I'm smiling over here. I have this huge grin on my face because I feel like I am going to have a totally different opinion, which is okay. I think that this dramatically impacts Breece Hall's RB1 upside for this year coming off the ACL injury. I still think that a healthy Dalvin Cook is one of the few running backs that defensive coordinators have to scheme around. I think he's that good. I think people are discounting how ineffective he was between the tackles because of the shoulder injury. And I think you're going to see a different Dalvin Cook than you saw last year. And he's at 2 years with the injury, so that's definitely a risk. And if the shoulder injury comes back, then I'm back on Breece Hall. But I do think for redraft leagues and for this upcoming year, it's a bigger deal than people think. And the fact that they made him the 9th highest paid running back in the NFL tells me that the Jets kind of think the same. because there's still good free agents out there that could have had a meaningful impact to the New York Jets overall roster. I don't think they're spending it on a running back, $8.6 million, potentially $7 million guaranteed, unless they have a significant game plan for Dalvin Cook. He also, when he was determining where he went, it was, can you win now? And am I going to get the opportunity to be the lead back potentially? And I think he's going to have that with the Jets. And I know people are chomping, and I'm going to be one of a very few handful of people that think this, but I'm always been a big Dalvin Cook guy since college. I think he's a special back, and I still think he's got juice in the tank.
Well, typically running backs coming off 4 straight years of 250 carries tend to be terrible. They tend to be washed. And usually players who have shoulder injuries, I don't care how many times you get surgery done. It's been the same shoulder injury like 5 times. You can get as many surgeries done as he wants, but it's not fixed. It's not going to be fixed. It's not going to be what it was before. How many times it's been hurt, how many times he's played in a harness. For me, Dalvin Cook.
The harness is a secret weapon, though. Remember that game where he had the harness on?
I do remember that.
Like so many.
We're getting to a point. Almost 1,300 career carries. We're getting to a point now, many injuries. We're getting to 28 years old. Essentially, it's a decision point. The way it works for running backs of that age is either you're a Hall of Fame level player or you're done. Those are the 2 choices. You're either Adrian Peterson or you're not. And while I like Dalvin Cook, I'm going to bet that he's not. That he's not that. Can he still be okay? Yes. Is he still elite? No, he wasn't last year. And he wasn't even close. He wasn't elite in any way. He wasn't elite at anything. He was actually bad. So could he be better with the allegedly healthy shoulder? Maybe. Is the fact that the shoulder is still not healthy a bad sign? Yes. I would have liked to hear.
That's very poor, yeah.
Everything is good. Totally healthy. Yes, he's going to go be a father and take paternity leave. That's great. But the shoulder, we're now at August 15th. It's still an issue. And this has been an issue for 4 years, constantly. I don't like that it's still an issue. If I didn't hear that, I might have him ranked a little higher. But because of that, I can't trust Dalvin Cook to hold up or be effective for an entire season. So for that reason, I have Dalvin Cook ranked at RB 31 and Breece Hall at RB 12. And unlike Rhamondre Stevenson, I think there is a universe. I have them in the same tier, but I think people are going to have Breece Hall lower. So I think there is a universe where I could have Breece Hall shares in redraft. I think that universe does exist because there is a point where if wide receivers are gone and tight ends and premium quarterbacks, that I could take a running back in that tier. And it's more likely to be Breece Hall because I think he's going to fall further. I think someone said we were talking about RB 15, RB 18. I think that's where he's going to fall. And since I have him at RB 12, I think that is a value. And I could see taking Breece Hall. The problem is in that range, everyone has a problem. And it's big. It's a big problem.
Yep.
Look at that range for a second. Yeah. Rhamondre Stevenson is at 10. I have him at 10. A problem is that the goal line work could be a 3-way split. It's a problem. Jahmyr Gibbs, I have at 11. I like him, but we don't know what the split is going to be like. Is he going to get any goal line work? If he doesn't get any, he's going to struggle to live up to that RB11 price. He's got to get some. Doesn't have to be all, but it's some. He has to get some. If you get no touches in the red zone, you're not going to be RB11. You're just not. It's not going to happen. I'm betting he does get some, but it's a risk. It's a risk. Breece Hall, I have at 12. Najee Harris at 13. He looked terrible. Terrible. He looked like he was running in mud. Jaylen Warren looked better. Jaylen Warren is coming on the field for 3rd downs. Doesn't sound so good. Travis Etienne at 14. Well, we saw the picture of him and Tank Bigsby. We saw how Tank Bigsby looked. It's very concerning to me. Tank Bigsby was a very effective college running back. Very effective. Aaron Jones at 15. He's 28. Even older than Dalvin Cook. And that offense is still going to be a split, and that offense could be bad. And then at 16, Joe Mixon, who is now being charged in a new lawsuit, a new problem, and he's not there. He's having to deal with that. I mean, that doesn't sound so good. So, yes, Breece Hall at 12 sounds high, but then when you listen to all these other, everyone has an issue. Every running back this year. There is no one safe. No one.
It's standing at the bar. Which red flag are you the most okay with at the end of the night?
Yeah.
ETN.
Remember the days where we had 5, 6 running backs who had no warts? They'd get all the work. This year, there are 0. The running back position is changing, and we have to learn to accept risk with our running backs because there's no choice.
Yep.
Even Christian McCaffrey comes with risk. Austin Eckler comes with risk. It is what it is. This is the game now, and you have to adapt. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. That's my take on the situation. I think Breece Hall, the fact that he's being activated from the PUP now is also a big factor. That would have been very different, I think, my ranking if he were still on the PUP. But I like seeing that he's activated in advance. Basically, what I'm hearing from the Jets is that Breece Hall is more ready to practice and play than Dalvin Cook. That's what they're saying.
Yep.
That's what that says. So that's why I have that take. I think I gave a lot of good reasoning.
Very fair, yeah.
Now, I moved the Jets' other running backs off my redraft rankings. Let's talk about Dynasty. So we're not done. The interesting thing is that I didn't really move Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook in Dynasty at all, which is weird. But I guess that means I was happy with how I ranked them before. And I feel like I kind of had this priced in for a while.
Yeah.
I was hoping Dalvin Cook would go to Miami. Then I think we'd get to see
That'd be the best.
What Ryan was talking about. We're not going to see that here. Even if he is the starter, it's still not going to be that.
Agree with that. I think it's going to be, you would have a better path to showcase with Miami than he will with Breece Hall. Breece Hall is still a very uberly talented running back.
That aside, the scheme for the Jets is the Nathaniel Hackett scheme. And that was so wonderful. So that's not the scheme I'd want. Whereas Miami is gold. Mike McDaniel is the gold scheme, the genius scheme, the Kyle Shanahan running back scheme.
Yep.
I mean, it did get Aaron Rodgers 2 MVPs.
Right, but Aaron Rodgers is not a running back. Aaron Rodgers is not a running back. I do think that Nathaniel Hackett is more effective in the passing game than people think, and Russell Wilson was the problem. But his running scheme is bad. He's also the one who misused the Packers running backs in the first place. Remember that we always complained about the usage for Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon? So many complaints with Jamal Williams. Whose fault is that?
Hackett.
So, yeah. So he's responsible. Let's talk about a couple of other things. Michael Carter. The Jets now have 5 running backs on the roster, right? I think Michael Carter is going to be traded. And I think it's going to happen soon. And I think it's going to be the Cleveland Browns. Let's just say that people are talking about this. People are discussing it. People are saying it. We'll have to see. People are saying it. Do not be surprised if Michael Carter is on the Cleveland Browns.
Have you seen beat reports and something about that?
There are other things. Yeah, there are many different places
Rumor.
where it's being talked about. There's so many different places where it's being talked about.
Yeah, I've missed those rumors, but
yeah,
that'd make a lot. I mean, it make a lot of sense.
Well, because Jerome Ford has a hamstring injury. He does.
It makes
a hamstring injury, and he's the only backup to Nick Chubb. There's no one else. John Kelly, Demetric Felton, and wide receiver. So they need a running back badly. Michael Carter.
And I much prefer Michael Carter to them, to be honest. I like Michael Carter's skill set. I think he's a good fit behind Chubb. So that's a nice fit. That's the best place you could go if you're a Michael Carter holder.
I think Michael Carter is just fine, but I do look for him to be traded. Don't cut him in Dynasty because I do think he'll be on another team.
Yeah, don't cut him.
The one who because he just seems like the odd man out. If you think about it, they have the two guys, Israel Abanikanda, they just drafted this year. And Zonovan Knight is a UDFA, and also I believe should be able to play special teams if he's a UDFA, you would think, and made the team originally. So
And that likes him.
And Abanikanda can also play special teams. Michael Carter just seems like he doesn't fit. Zonovan Knight is currently ahead of Abanikanda on the depth chart, by the way. Michael Carter's not going to be there.
Abanikanda is also a rookie. You gotta just.
They like to play those games.
They like to play those games with the rookies.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that that's why I think they're going to keep. That's why I don't think what's going to happen is I think they're going to cut. They're going to trade Michael Carter, keep Zonovan Knight as their initial RB3, and Abanikanda around as either as a fourth running back on game days because if Hall is still not healthy, and a special teamer. They might have 4 running backs actually.
Yeah.
But they have no place for Michael Carter. Dalvin Cook is now that role. So Michael Carter seems superfluous. So look for him to be on the Browns. Or if someone else gets injured and they call. Because he's like the most available running back. The Jets are the only team that has 5 running backs who have a real case to be on a game day roster.
Do you think the Vikings might look at him with their concerns at running back? Because Madison's not really a great passer.
They might. I don't see the Vikings, though, as being a team looking to trade draft capital. I think the Vikings are more likely to sign Hunt or Fournette than they are to trade for Carter.
I'd agree.
Though, the Browns are the team on my radar for Carter.
That's fair. That's probably the best team. But the Vikings, I think, could also maybe look into it. But because they looked into Hunt recently. They had him for a visit.
They did. That's true.
On Hunt's tour of all the amazing cities in the world. It seems like he's just been visiting every team.
None of them. I thought
he's signed with none of them. It's so funny, man.
He's signed with none of them.
He's visited with every team. So every team he's signed with none of them. He's just getting vacations, man.
Now, let's talk about another thing. There are 2 big winners of this event. Devon Achane and Tony Pollard. More so Devon Achane. Devon Achane is a huge winner.
Huge winner.
Because there was one Dalvin Cook, and he was going to go to one of these 3 places, Miami, New England, or the Jets, and cause a big problem there. And he didn't go to Miami. I don't see Miami signing Fournette or Hunt. I think it was Dalvin Cook or nobody for them. They have Jeff Wilson and Mostert. I don't think they don't need a third of those.
No, they don't.
Or slower and don't fit the scheme. So it was Cook or nobody, and they were happy with what they had and signed nobody. So Devon Achane is a big winner to me. Tony Pollard as well. I don't see the Cowboys could sign Fournette, but I would be more scared of Zeke. I think Zeke had more left than Fournette or Hunt. And we know the Cowboys already liked Zeke, so he would be more likely to get a role. I'm not sure Fournette or Hunt coming in would get the same role.
Pollard was like a top 10 running back last year with Zeke getting a lot of touches. So
I know. But now I think Pollard has the ceiling to be. I see a lot of people ranking Pollard as their RB1. I think that's ridiculous because I don't think he can hold up to the touches. But Pollard absolutely has a top 5 ceiling.
Yeah, he does. He does have that ceiling if he can really handle those touches. But I don't like after watching what he's done over his career, looking at everything he's done, that handle of that amount of touches is something that he's not going to be able to handle. There's just no way.
Yeah, I still have him in the second
It'll break down his body.
I still have him in the second tier of running backs. I still have McCaffrey, Eckler, Bijan, and Barkley in the first tier. And Pollard's in the second tier.
That's fair. Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
I don't have him in the running back 1 overall group.
But after that group, he's starting to become one of the safer options, I think, especially with the way the landscape has changed. So I'm actually
Dalvin Cook
in on him.
Go there. Jerry Jones could have signed Dalvin Cook if he had wanted to. Now that's
Jerry Jones move to sign another quote-unquote superstar running back.
That is very much a Jerry Jones move.
It would be a very Jones move.
So, okay, let's get back to the questions now.
With Anthony Richardson being named the regular season starter today for the Colts, does he move ahead of Bijan in the Superflex rookie rankings? Can we harmonize this?
Hell no.
Hell no.
No.
Tyler, does he even move up to your 102?
So no, it does give me. I mean, it does give me a bit more confidence in him as a player. It does give me a tad more confidence.
No.
Yeah, there you go. Meaning,
Bring it out. Bring it out.
There's one other thing. If you're watching the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.
Love it.
Go ahead.
Love it. But with Anthony Richardson, I mean, given the fact that he's the week 1 starter, it does give you a little bit more confidence of what the coaches are seeing in him at camp. And we've seen highlights all day. But when it really comes down to it, they're starting him week 1. They believe that he can be a starter in the NFL. And that's at least a good sign. So maybe not. I don't think it's changing my rankings ridiculously. Obviously, for redraft, it might. Might move him more into that QB1 area because we know he's starting week 1. But for Dynasty, not too much. But I think there's at least a confidence boost here for Anthony Richardson. The fact that maybe he develops into a solid passer. What's that?
I've always thought he was going to start.
Yeah, I've always been on that side as well. I've always
been
thought
very confident about that.
I've always been on that side as well. I thought maybe Rich Minshew can get in for 3 or 4 games, but
I never had any doubt really.
I thought Richardson was
not after not since early reports in May and June. I've had it ranked as if Richardson is locked in week 1 for a long time.
It's fair, yeah.
This is not news to me. It's the same news as Bryce Young being named the starter, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I did move Gardner Minshew down, not because I was surprised, but because if they're making this decision this early, I think that says something about Gardner Minshew.
It could, yeah.
That he's just a backup. He's not it. So I moved him down in my Dynasty rankings, good 30 spots in Superflex, away from the Taylor Heineke, Jacoby Brissett, kind of could get in Sam Darnold group. And now he's in with the Mike White group.
The true backups.
Backups, yeah. I think we're done. I think we will never see Gardner Minshew as an intended starter ever again.
Once Urban Meyer took that reign from him and gave it to Trevor Lawrence in middle of August,
it was over, wasn't it?
2 years ago, that was all she wrote. So we got a 12-team, 1 quarterback, start 8. Give Sanders, Freiermuth, and the 205. I'm guessing that's Miles Sanders. And get Mark Andrews.
Andrews.
Yeah.
Yep.
Andrews.
Yeah, that's an easy
one. That's not even a decision. Yeah.
Let's next one.
All right. 2-sentence answers. Thoughts on Mingo?
I did a whole video on him.
I think Jonathan Mingo has some upside. I mean, this receiver room is so ambiguous. He has all the upside in the world, but I'm not big of a fan of him as a prospect because he had, his physical tools seem insane. His size and speed combo is AJ Brown-esque. It's kind of wild, but he never produced in college. And he had all the opportunity in the world too, and he just never did it. So I'm quite worried. I drafted him here and there in Dynasty and in fantasy football in general, but not all in. And then Flowers has been making all the noise in the world at camp, and I'm pretty intrigued by him.
I'm willing to take
a shot. Yeah, I'm willing to take the shot on him because the more that you think about it, it's just they knew that they had Rashod Bateman, they knew that they had OBJ, but they decided to take him in the first round of the NFL draft anyway. They have a plan for him. So I'm very interested in him, especially with the Ravens and Todd Monken's offense looking to pass more. There should be room for a receiver to step up outside of Mark Andrews. There should be room for it, and that's where Zay Flowers could really make an impact.
Zay Flowers in that room makes it with Odell Beckham and Rashod Bateman if he's healthy and Mark Andrews. It gives what I really love is it's gonna quell all those concerns about is Lamar Jackson a passer or not. You're gonna find out now. You're gonna get your answer this year for sure. This is the best weapons he's had by a long shot at receiver. I'm excited to see that. I think Flowers is going to be a good player. I'm not as high on him as some are. I know he's making a lot of noise in camp. A lot of guys in the past have too. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver. I worry about size on guys like that. You get your Antonio Browns, and then there's a big gap when you get to that height. So I do worry about him as that high end wide receiver one. I don't think Flowers ever becomes that. Mingo is an interesting case to me because I think that staff loves him so much. They're so confident in him that he becomes a little bit more intriguing to me. And I think when I rewatched him after he was drafted by Carolina, I realized how bad Ole Miss's quarterback play was. So I will give him a little bit of a pass on production. I don't think it's going to be like a Calvin Johnson where he just didn't produce in college and all of a sudden is one of the best receivers of all time. But I do think that Mingo is going to be better than people expect and will be more productive in the NFL than he was in college.
I'm expecting day one on the field snaps, routes run from Jonathan Mingo.
Agreed. Yeah.
The reality that he got put on the top 3 in the depth chart from the initial ones, when usually rookies aren't included at all, or late additions to it, ahead of significant wide receivers in Terrace Marshall and Laviska Shenault. Mingo's the clear at least wide receiver 2 or 3 on that team, and he's going to see the field.
Yeah, the only problem with me,
I forgot that Laviska Shenault was on the Panthers.
You forgot?
Me too, until I saw that report, and then I was like,
I forgot.
And then
I forgot that he still existed.
He's there, yeah.
Remember when people sold him for a first?
He's terrible. I'm one of them. I sold him for a first.
Tyler, did you see my tweet about
ended up being the
Devon Achane yesterday?
Oh, man.
Devon Achane gives me big Laviska Shenault vibes.
Devon Achane is available in certain leagues. I should just go spam.
Yeah. All right. Late round rookie draft flyers. Sean Tucker or Zach Evans?
Zach Evans.
Neither.
2 guys I actually liked as prospects coming out. That's a tough one.
Not bad. I'm
going to lean Sean Tucker, actually, funnily enough. Yeah.
I think Zach Evans was the
if you're to make me click the draft button on one of them, I would click it on Zach Evans because I love Cam Akers. But if you had to bet on Rashod White or Cam Akers flopping this year and completely being a disaster, I think Akers has a higher chance because of that Achilles injury.
Evans better for this season. I think I like Tucker better longer term. And I know that sounds a little bit nonsensical, especially both as rookies, both as backups. But Zach Evans, I feel like, is going to get more snaps this year than potentially he will go forward. I feel like they'll replace Zach Evans down the line with the Rams. I think McVay really churns through those tiers of running backs pretty quickly. So, but I find both of them kind of intriguing. I liked both of their tape in college. I feel like Sean Tucker was actually a pretty complete back over at Syracuse, and I liked a lot of what I saw there. So I was surprised he went undrafted. Think he actually, I have him higher ranked than Zach Evans coming out of school. So, but I have them very close.
So is Kenny Pickett at this point a peak sell? 0 chance at a top 12 season. Anything outside of that is kind of worthless, right? Value is rising off the preseason.
Honestly, to be honest, I don't like. Look, I understand he looked bad last year. We never loved him as a prospect, and it's never been, Kenny Pickett's been a wow factor. There hasn't been that. But I don't think there's not a top 12 ceiling. Like, this dude can run. He produced some numbers in college, and we watch him on the field. He can run. If he unlocks that this year, there's absolutely upside again in the top 12. And look at the receiving core around him. He's George Pickens. He's Dante Johnson, Najee Harris out of the backfield. You have Jaylen Warren. You have Pat Freiermuth. And an upgraded offensive line compared to last year, significantly upgraded. Why can't he have a breakout season? It feels like people are assuming he's bad. He was a first-round pick. Maybe he didn't deserve to be. Maybe he should have been more like a second-round pick. But he was still drafted in the first round by this team. They still believe something in him. They saw something in him, and they decided to go for it. Why can't he have a breakout year? I feel like so many people are, but besides like Steelers fans, so many people are assuming that he is just toast. He is done, and there's no upside. He showed a lot of progression towards the end of the year. His passer rating went significantly up. His turnovers went significantly down. He made some really nice throws, and he helped lead a comeback against the Ravens toward the end of the year with some clutch plays. I see a world where he breaks out. Obviously, I think it's unlikely as well, but I don't think he necessarily has to sell. You don't have to sell him.
I think he's a safe QB2 for the next 3 years.
I think that's fair. The Steelers are not going to have the draft capital again.
They're not going to replace him. They're going to see what they've got. They've got to see this through. I think a lot of the hate towards Kenny Pickett comes from box score watching. A lot of interceptions, and a lot of those were on Hail Marys and 50-50 balls when there was no other option.
And a couple drops as well.
Yep, and he had to make the throw.
It's not about that. essentially Kenny Pickett throughout his college career was bad. Not bad, but not an NFL prospect. Then he has Jordan Addison's Biletnikoff winning year, and he looks great. And then he comes to the NFL, and the weapons are not so great. And he's not good. Kenny Pickett could be a top 12 quarterback if Jamar Chase was one of his wide receivers. Can't with the current weapons. They're not good enough because Kenny Pickett's not good. Well, he's not bad, but he's not a floor-raising quarterback. If he had excellent weapons, he could be top 12. I do agree. I see no path to top 12 with his current weapons. I think he could be a top 12 quarterback if he had some of the best weapons in the league, but he doesn't. He has, what would you say about his weapons? That they're average? I'd say they're about average.
Yeah.
I mean, Deontay Johnson is not, for real life, is not a top 25 wide receiver to me. He's not difference making. He's inefficient. He gets a lot of receptions, but he doesn't do that much with them. He's not a game breaker. George Pickens is a lot of highlights.
He could be a game breaker. George Pickens
could be a game breaker.
George Pickens,
Deontay Johnson can't. But the problem with George Pickens is he can break the game, 1 or 2 plays a game, but what about the rest of it?
Right.
He's not consistent. Pat Freiermuth is good, not great, in terms of actually receiving. He's not great. He has like an average set of weapons. So he doesn't run. You say he does, but he doesn't. He averaged 18 rushing yards a game. That is not running. That's not running for fantasy. Running is 40 or more. So he doesn't really run.
He showed flashes of it. In college, he had really
but
production.
Not really. In college, he didn't run at all. And he got outside the pocket, but he didn't run. He didn't run for a lot of yards. He actually was. This was.
They changed the college rule for him from his running.
But it was a knock for him that he didn't put up a lot of college rushing yards. I mean, he didn't. And then he was fine, but he didn't put up a lot of. I think what people got wrong, he never put up more than 250 rushing yards in a college season.
Nope, he didn't. And I think it's funny because I think that play, the rule change play, is what has given him the perception that he's a running quarterback. I actually think he reminds me of like a Ryan Tannehill-ish kind of quarterback with a little bit more of an it factor. That's kind of like... No.
Ryan Tannehill is a converted wide receiver. Kenny Pickett does not have those kind of wheels.
No. I'm talking about like from a fantasy perspective, like a fantasy ceiling. But he feels like a Ryan Tannehill-ish. Yes.
He doesn't have that. He doesn't have those kind of wheels. Not like Ryan Tannehill, who's a converted from another position. That's very different. That's why Ryan Tannehill is so mobile. A lot of people forget about that. Is that he came up as a wide receiver.
Yeah, I wasn't calling Kenny Pickett like a running quarterback, like a Fields or a Lamar or a Hurts or anything like that. But he can add. He can add in the rush game. He's
closer to being a statue than he is to being a running quarterback. 18 is nothing. It's irrelevant when it comes to running. It is irrelevant. 18 is closer to 0 than it is to what matters, which is like 40 or 50. It is. I mean, that's just reality. Where I think people got Kenny Pickett wrong is people said that Kenny Pickett, because he didn't rush for a lot in college, he's immobile and cannot move in the pocket. That's not true. He can move in the pocket, and that's why I think he's not going to be as bad as people say. But in terms of fantasy, I don't see it. Doesn't run enough. Not a floor-raising quarterback. I'd find it hard to believe he finishes higher than quarterback 15 in points per game, and that's at best. I have him in redraft at quarterback 24. So
I'd sell him. And it's funny, I think you nailed it with his, I was going back to my draft notes on Kenny Pickett, and I did talk about how he's evasive in the pocket and fast enough to be an occasional asset in the run game, but that's not where he's going to win.
That's exactly how I see it. Yeah. I will also say this, though. That doesn't mean that I find Kenny Pickett to be a sell. Kenny Pickett, I think, is going to retain that job, and I think he's going to be a lot better for real life than he is for fantasy. There's a universe in which Kenny Pickett finishes at quarterback 24 and the Steelers have a winning record.
Yep.
That universe exists.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think that's not that unlikely.
I think you nailed what the Steelers' outlook and Kenny Pickett's outlook looks like, to be honest with you. I think that's spot on.
That's really good, yeah.
So he's actually a buy for me in Dynasty, not a sell. I think a lot of people are too low on him.
Yeah, people think he's going to be erased after his first year and be replaced. They just don't have the replacement for him, and they're going to win games.
Yeah, he's better for real life than he is for fantasy, and the Steelers give their quarterback such a long leash that I think that Kenny Pickett, you got his whole rookie contract of him playing.
Yep.
So probably this year, next year, minimum, and then probably at least part of the year after that. So he's a.
The Steelers are never bad enough where Mike Tomlin's such a good coach. They're never bad enough where they're in the range of like that elite quarterback anyway. So
exactly, if they're not in that range, it's going to be hard to replace him.
12 teams, start 10 lineup, Superflex PPR, 1.5 tight end premium contender. Trading for Bijan or give up your 2024 and 2025 first and second and early 24 second Romeo Dobbs and Hendon Hooker.
So
what's that? 3 2s, 2 1s,
3 2s, 2 1s.
Romeo Dobbs has
for Bijan.
I'll take Bijan, but it's close.
Yeah,
that's close because that's a lot of compensation.
I'm listening, but if you're a contender right there, I'm hesitant to say here. I'll take your pick 9 or pick 10 as the first pick I get back in that trade.
Yeah, I'll take Bijan barely.
I will too. Yeah.
I also say know your skill set too. Like some people really can't draft in rookie drafts. I have some league mates that just whiff all the time in rookie draft picks. If you're one of those people, then I think, I definitely lean the Bijan side.
No, there are no such people because those people should go to patreon.com/fantasy advice and sign up for my Patreon and I'll do it for you. And then I'll
see that? Lob you a softball, sir, right up to the top
it's in the
Hollywood Square.
Click the link, sign up right now, and do it before you mess up your team.
That's true. I'm a lot better before you mess it up.
All right, another Bijan question.
There's the link for anyone interested. Go back to the Bijan question.
Bijan and Kyle Pitts or Rhamondre, Olave, Pat Freiermuth, and Zay Flowers.
Is there a format here?
I would assume just.
I don't think it really matters because I think it's the Olave side no matter what.
Because it is kind of tough.
Yeah, because Olave and Olave's not worth that much less than Bijan. Olave and Flowers to me is worth more than Bijan. And then Rhamondre and Freiermuth, that's a good price. I mean, I like Flowers a lot. Just seems like there's more value in the 4 players. Kyle Pitts.
Here's my take. Pitts and Olave, long term to me, I actually view very similar. I still am very much in on Kyle Pitts. I think rookies coming in, getting 1,000 yards in the NFL is still that very, very young age for Kyle Pitts. I think if I stack ranked who I like in Dynasty top to bottom from here, I'd probably go Bijan, Pitts, Olave down the line. So I'd lean to the 2 players that I prefer more, and I would go Bijan and Pitts. But I do see that's heavy compensation, and I really do like Chris Olave a lot too. It's not a knock on Olave. I'm very, very high on Olave. Just also very high on Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I actually think it's Zay Flowers and his changing value that's making this much easier to go to the 4 players.
Yeah.
All right, we got a question about former USC wide receivers. Would you trade Drake London for Jordan Addison straight up?
No. Not me. I would take London. I think what you started to see when Mariota came out was how well he could be utilized and how big of a focal point of an offense he could be. Whereas Addison, I really like Jordan Addison a lot too. End of the day, they still got Justin Jefferson. He's still going to be the number 1 there. You take Justin Jefferson out of the equation in Minnesota, maybe Addison gets a little bit closer to London for me, but I'm taking London.
Yeah, it's definitely Drake London. He has the upside to be an alpha for this offense. And obviously the next year or 2 may be tough. If Devin Ritter doesn't work out and they replace him potentially with a rookie, if they can get somebody, if they're bad enough to get somebody, like they might not be bad enough to get a rookie pick up there near the 101 or anywhere near that. Their defense has made some upgrades this year. Their offensive core around Ritter is really good. So if they're not able to replace Ritter, they might be in a situation where they're stuck with that quarterback for a bit. But the quarterback situation is just a problem for Drake London for the next couple of years. I would still take London, though. He has the potential to be an alpha.
It's London so easily. He was a better prospect. He was drafted higher. He's not playing alongside Justin Jefferson. He had a very productive rookie season. And he is the one who's doing well with Desmond Ritter, not Kyle Pitts.
No, it's not
Kyle Pitts. Is very concerning to me. any quarterback can support one fantasy weapon, no matter how bad you are. Any quarterback can support one fantasy weapon. The problem is when we start to get to 2, and Kyle Pitts is going to be the one who suffers, not Drake London.
Yep, agreed.
Jeremy says, "Hey folks, keep up the great work," with a fire emoji. I agree, it's been fire in here. Let's continue on. Louis G set Dynasty Superflex. Jaylen Waddle, Dalton Kincaid in a 24 first, or Trevor Lawrence.
Brutal. Trevor Lawrence is worth so much, but that is just too much to pay. So I'll take the package.
I would as well. That package is insane.
It's also
you don't have to
10 teams.
Oh, that's even worse then. Then it's the package.
Yeah, you're guaranteed it's in the top 10 pick.
Yeah, then it's the package.
Yeah, it's package.
Quarterbacks are worth less.
Yep.
What is stopping Herbert from being the QB1? Is there too much hype off the -8 Fields air yards? Oh, it's 2 separate questions. I didn't read it ahead of time. So let's start with Herbert. Any reason he can't be the QB1 this year?
No. There's no reason he can't. With Kellen Moore in this offense, he could absolutely get there. The problem is he doesn't run the football, and it's going to be he's going to have a really high touchdown rate, but he could get there. He could absolutely get there. He has the talent, he has the arm, he has the weapons, and he has the OC that likes to throw the football.
He needs his defense to be bad.
But he needs the defense. Yeah, he needs some injuries on defense, which has happened in the past couple of years. They've had some injuries.
Tyler's standing above me, and he wants to crush this, I feel like. He wants to crush that response.
There's no way he can be the QB1. There's just no way. He lacks the one elite weapon that he would need. He doesn't have it. So if he doesn't have it, he can't. He can't do it. He needs a Jamar Chase. He's good, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Herbert's great, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes can do it no matter what. Justin Herbert's not that. He would need elite level weapons, like what Joe Burrow has. If you put Justin Herbert on the Bengals, maybe, but not in his current situation. The weapons are good, but they're not good enough. So the QB1, no. Could he be top 5? Yeah, but QB1, no.
And then, is there too much hype off the -8 Fields, Justin Fields air yards from his 3 for 3, 160-yard performance?
Who cares? If you're overreacting to preseason stats don't matter at all. Ignore them. What matters is who played when, and oftentimes who didn't play. Who didn't play is often important. But even that can be misleading.
Silence sometimes is even louder.
Stats is irrelevant. I don't care who put up what stats.
He was going to be the.
You were muted, and then
you were muted, then you went on. It was weird. Yeah,
I was muted.
Strange.
That was weird.
No, you're good now. That was very strange.
Danny Warfel, back in the day when Steve Spurrier took over for Washington, lit up the preseason. Lit up. Looked like he was going to be the greatest player of all time. Preseason means nothing. You get vanilla defenses, vanilla offenses. People aren't showing any cards. It's not legit. I don't worry anything about air yards for Justin Fields off of that. Dude can run. That's all I care about.
The thing I cared about most was I liked the usage for DJ Moore getting a screenplay and not having to get a long pass to get targets. Something that he did.
Been on here for weeks, months talking about DJ Moore. Since I came onto this show, I am such a DJ Moore fan. Not even funny. DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, 2 best receivers in the NFL that nobody talks about because of their horrible, horrible quarterback play over the last 3-4 years. Those guys are guys I both love.
There, several years ago, what really sold me on Dalvin Cook was a preseason run where he took a house call similar to what DJ Moore just did. And that, to me, was that play for DJ Moore to be like, okay, this is different. This is better than what he was looking at before. If he's going to be used in this way, even if it was a bad throw to him, and he had to wait for it, and he had to go back a little bit to get it, it's worth it. I think DJ Moore is going to be the guy in that offense. It's going to be.
You know who DJ Moore is? He is the Bobby's Beats of wide receivers. Underrated pizza, phenomenal pizza. I wore this shirt specifically because of last week. Repping the New Haven style pizza. That's who DJ Moore is. He's a stud.
If you want to know more about the pizza, go listen to the last about 20 minutes of last week's episode. Leave a comment about your favorite pizza place, and we'll be sure to get back to you on that.
You missed it, Tyler. I said DJ Moore was the Bobby Zabitz of wide receivers. I'm bringing that New Haven pizza the credit and recognition that it deserves.
You guys,
just like DJ Moore.
You guys just spoke about the backup quarterbacks. I actually have Tua and Desmond Ridder in a dynasty. Would it be better to have Mike White with Tua's injury history or Heineke because Ridder may be bad?
Mike White is losing the backup job. Mike White is losing the. Mike White has been horrific in camp.
No, it's not Mike White. It's definitely Heineke. Heineke's the one that can play.
Heineke?
Yep, easily. And Heineke,
he's gonna see the field.
Heineke, if he plays, he's actually not horrific for fantasy because he's willing to take shots down the field and he'll throw it all over the place. And like he's willing to just chuck it. He doesn't care. He doesn't.
I
care.
have won some super flex games because of Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
He plays like the rent is due, and he has nothing to lose. Like that's how Taylor Heineke plays football, and it's great for fantasy.
Yeah,
so, if he actually does,
fun to watch.
He would actually be a relevant fantasy player, especially with that offense around him with London and Pitts and Bijan and that offensive line. Like he could actually play decent for fantasy. Yeah. So just keep an eye for him if he gets a starting job.
So this question is an updated one from earlier. It's the same package in a start 8, but added a 24 first to it. Still Andrews?
I'll take the side with the 24 first.
It does make it probably the first. Yeah.
That's too much.
It is. I would take the
unnecessary.
Steelers to the moon. Also, make sure to sign up for the Patreon. It's there for you guys.
Yes.
Keep the lights on.
Help
us keep the lights on.
But the best part about the Patreon is actually in my opinion, is the in-season start sit spreadsheet because I get hundreds of questions and I can't answer them all. But the only people who get that in-season spreadsheet are those who pay for it. It's not available for free anywhere or as part of anything else.
It's kind of early to say what Freiermuth is. People have said that he's a mid-tier tight end. He has had some of the worst QB play ever and still had a great start to a tight end career. Only 2 years in the league. I think we all are kind of like ahead of consensus-ish on Freiermuth, like tight end 8-ish. Would you guys say that's...
I think he's fine. It's just the only problem is what do we get from Kenny Pickett? Because we've been talking maybe he's a good real life quarterback, not really for fantasy. And if he's not throwing a load of touchdowns, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens already in the offense, and Najee Harris out of the backfield, it makes it tougher for him to have any sort of ceiling. But he'll probably end up being a lower end tight end 1 because he's a talented player. He's going to get some targets, but I don't feel there's much upside. That's the only problem.
Yeah, the problem is with Kenny Pickett's low ceiling, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and Pat Freiermuth would have to get literally everything to all be good. Yeah. Literally everything. Everyone else would have to be irrelevant. So unless that's what happens, one of them is going to fail. And it's probably going to be a combination of Pickens and Freiermuth, both kind of being a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah. Agreed.
Hey, Tyler, do you take Zell for Patreon?
I don't take Zell. I don't know anything about Zell. I don't take Zell for anything. I do have Venmo, both to tip, and also there's my spreadsheet offer, which is available. I haven't put a tweet out about it, but here's the tweet to the last one. That's to tip. And then there's this Venmo, another one where you can purchase just the spreadsheet. If you're not interested in a recurring charge, for $20 for the whole season, you get the spreadsheet. It'll have dynasty rankings, redraft rankings, and then start sit weekly. You get it for the whole season, $20. And that's also through Venmo. But Zell, I don't know anything about Zell.
That London question is peak rookie hype. Take advantage of some recency bias.
Yep,
if you can.
It is. Yeah.
Dallas, is that even his first name? My head's blanking. Goddard. Thank you. Goddard or Pitts in Dynasty, and is it a huge gap?
I'd take Pitts in a significant. Pitts in a significant, yeah. They're different levels of talents. It's a different level.
Dallas Goedert's also,
and he's way
older. Years older.
Yeah, he's also much older.
Dallas Goedert's older than people think.
Yeah, people forget about his age. It's
I think people think he's younger, but he came into the NFL at 23 and a half at the start of his first season. So he's older than people think.
and he played behind Zach Ertz for a while.
That also.
People forget.
I mean, it's also Kyle Pitts is 22 with tremendous upside. Desmond Ritter's not going to be around for forever with Kyle Pitts. There are a few tight ends that come into the NFL with his skill set. He's a special tight end. It's not even close to me. I know I talked before I like him over Olave even in Dynasty. I definitely.
Pitts had more receiving yards as a rookie than Dallas Goedert has had in any of his NFL seasons.
Yep.
Yeah,
and Goddard sometimes has some health issues too. So
I will also say
22.
That I think Dallas Goedert's share of the Philadelphia offense could go down. I think last year, 4.6 receptions, 58.5 yards per game. That might be about the best case scenario unless there's an injury to someone else.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be better in terms
AJ
of
Brown and
share.
Devontae Smith soak up so much of that offense. They soak up 50+% of that offense last year. Like that's what the kind of target shares they're getting. They're just insane.
Yeah.
There's not much room for anyone else.
All right. Superflex, Jahan Dotson, Cam Akers in a 24 first, or QJ and Jordan Addison?
Ooh.
Well, I typically lean toward the 24 first in any question, but
yeah.
In this one,
it's pretty even.
The 24 first has the highest upside. I will say, let's go back to my strategy on 24 first. I talked about this on the Ask Tyler video. I talk about strategy a lot, and you can go view that on the YouTube channel. If I'm going to give up my 24 first, there's an opportunity cost to that. You only get to give up your 24 first one time, and this is not good enough. So if I'm on the 24 first side, I'm keeping it unless I get a better offer. I would prefer to just give the 24 first.
It's also so much tougher to sell first right now because they're going to be so much more valuable when draft season comes along. They're just going to be more valuable. People are going to be so much more excited about them. So trading 24 first now in Dynasty is a really tough thing to do, and it's not always the best decision to do because you could just trade them for, if you can wait and trade them for later, they're going to pull so much more because people are going to be hyped. Especially
the kind of thing I would do anyway.
What's that?
Better than QJ. And I prefer the 24 first to Addison, and then I'm also getting Akers on that side. Like I like the first side better.
Yep, I'm a big Akers guy here too as well. So
I am not.
I know you're
why
not.
It's closer for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the first Akers.
Some value there, like because that's how I'm putting that up is like 24 first versus Jordan Addison. I'm going to lean the 24 first. I'd take Jahan Dotson over QJ, and then Akers is just the cherry on top for me there.
I have QJ a lot higher than Dotson, and I don't really like Akers, so that's probably why it's closer for me.
All right, we got Toronto Dave in the house, giving us some
Dave?
emojis. Let's keep this one kind of short because I feel like we cover this almost every week. Any Tyler updates? Think he plays this year?
Yes, but it's going to be a while from now.
Yep. Agreed. And he won't be, and I get drafting him. I kind of get the people drafting late in fantasy, but when you look at quarterbacks coming off major knee injuries like this, especially running quarterbacks, they just don't run. They just don't. These guys don't run. And Kyler without rushing production is not something I want to see on my fantasy football roster. So I don't, even as low cost in Dynasty, it's different. In Dynasty, it's totally different. But in redraft specifically, I don't get taking shots on Kyler. I would rather take it on somebody else. I don't think the rushing is going to be there at all. It just never is for those quarterbacks. Usually it's not.
I do worry. What if he's on another team next year?
I would not. Like, that is, like, genuinely what I think will happen. I think he will get traded. I think they will draft Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
What if he goes to Atlanta?
That is my prediction.
Huh.
I think Atlanta, I think Minnesota would also be really interesting if they get rid of Kirk Cousins, which, Tyler, I know you've said that you think that Kirk Cousins is gone after this year. I think
Kirk Cousins is going to be the 49ers starting quarterback in 2020.
Yes.
We all know that.
Yeah. Do you think the Vikings could trade for Kyler Murray?
I don't see them doing that.
No.
It doesn't seem like their style. I think they'd be more likely to trade for someone cheaper.
It's fair. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely there's I think the prediction for me is that Kyler gets traded. That's it.
So we got some peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. What are you guys thinking about Andre? That's his last name. And Puka Nacua.
Mr. Princeton. He's smart. We know that. Now I think he was a really what impressed me about Andre was he was a patient route runner against zone defenses. He wasn't afraid to work through traffic. He had a lot of concentration drops. He let the ball get into his body. I felt like his combine speed did not translate at all onto film. I'm not really high on him at all. I do think there's a world where Puka Nacua can be a useful player, especially McVay's good at finding those kind of diamonds in the rough. And I think there's potential that like he could overtake a Jefferson or someone like that within the Rams offense. So if I were between the two of them, I'm taking the more fun name and the more fun player in Puka Nacua.
Yeah. Also, I saw a couple clips in practice of Puka Nacua there were specifically some videos of him making some really good blocks for Cam Akers. And obviously, when you're a receiver, being able to block is something that coaches like sometimes. So I think Puka Nacua is definitely the more interesting name here. I'm not really on Andre either. Not really.
I actually like Charlie Jones better than I do Esivis. I think Charlie Jones is a more interesting prospect to me and gave some really high-end DBs fits last year in college. So that's who I would like on the Bengals as my later round kind of wide receiver guy.
Yeah. So with later round wide receivers, they're never going to be good because the list of wide receivers who weren't drafted in the first 3 rounds that have high end value is very short. It's Amon-Ra, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs. And that's it.
That's it.
The next wide receiver after those 3 who was not drafted in the first 2 rounds, you got to go way down.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite a ways before you get there. I don't think.
And even Hill was a running back coming out, right? Like teams are working him out as a running back, and like that's a unique one.
Yeah, the next one after them is Gabriel Davis at wide receiver 45 in Dynasty. So they're never going to hit. And even Stephon and Tyreek Hill fell because of off-field reasons. So when you come to players the NFL just missed on in the last 15 years who were really good, you really have 3: Amon-Ra, Stephon Diggs, Antonio Brown, and that's it. So what's the point of this story? The point of the story is that if you're going to pick a wide receiver late, who went late in the draft, you want to pick someone who's going to flash immediately because they're not going to actually be good. So what you want to do is pick someone who flashes who you can then trade. Andre Yoshivas is not going to get on the field at all, unless there's an injury. He's not going to get on the field. He's not going to play. Puka Nacua might. So for that reason, I would prefer Puka Nacua. And I will tell you that if their landing spots were reversed, I'd have the opposite preference. If you just moved them, I'd prefer whoever was in the Rams situation over whoever. They're actually very equal prospects to me. I think I lean Nacua, but they're not by much. Yoshivas was a sleeper for me in the process.
Charlie Jones, throw on his game against Joey Porter, and you'll see why I didn't have Joey Porter as a first-round grade.
But Charlie Jones is injured, not participating in anything. And
Labrum, yep.
So he's never going to get a chance, unfortunately.
A rough floor finish for Jordan Addison this year. Let's assume that he stays healthy and plays like a floor.
Outside the top 50. It's never a guarantee.
Yeah, it's a rookie wide receiver.
Yeah, it's never a guarantee. For rookie wide receivers, I mean, most of them are better, but it is never a guarantee. You have first-round rookies who are bad all the time. Maybe not so much recently. Recently, we've been spoiled. But remember that
very much spoiled.
Exists.
Jalen Reagor
in 2020. But the last 2 years, we've been very spoiled I mean, the last 2 years there really have not been busts. Have there? Not really, right? Not busts. I mean, Jahan Dotson, I mean, how good was he over? Where'd he finish? Like 40? 45?
James
though, because Jahan Dotson also had 7
James
touchdowns.
Was hurt though. He didn't.
Yeah, he was hurt. He didn't play
because
he was hurt.
Expect him to do it, but last year every wide receiver in the first round, the other ones were all really good as rookies. He's spoiled.
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor's do happen. So yeah, the floor finish is nothing. It's outside the top 50, 60. Absolutely.
Yep, it's possible.
My realistic floor for him though is I'm gonna say like 750 yards, 4 touchdowns. I expect a good season from Jordan Addison, but to your point, like rookie floor is
45 in points per game.
Yeah.
And that's the sad reality is without the high touchdowns, he needs either a lot of yards or a lot of catches. And
yeah, I like Jordan Addison, but I think that it's tough. He's someone who's very talented, but the situation is rough. It's rough if I assume Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson are going to receive long-term extensions. And the best case scenario is that Kirk Cousins is the quarterback because the alternatives are not better. You're not going to find a quarterback who's better for fantasy than Kirk Cousins unless you get someone elite. Like Kyler Murray is not better for fantasy than Kirk Cousins. Kyler Murray himself is better, but he's not better for his receivers than Kirk Cousins is because Kirk Cousins will run. Kirk Cousins will have more passing yards than Kyler Murray. So it's actually very hard to find a quarterback who's good for like a guaranteed 4,000 to 4,500 passing yards, will throw touchdowns, and does not run. There are not many of those. The Vikings receivers were 1 and 2 in routes run. Their wide receiver 2 was 2nd in routes run in the NFL. Adam Thielen.
Yep.
So it's one of the best situations.
It's huge.
But what if Kirk Cousins goes away and it's replaced with Trey Lance? Then it doesn't sound so good. So
no,
it's always a risk when you are on a team with someone like Justin Jefferson, who is just impeccable, that if you ever get a bad quarterback, you're just screwed. You're screwed. You can't be that good. So that's the risk long-term with Jordan Addison.
So Dalton Kincaid is kind of sneaky old. Affect his dynasty ceiling or no?
No.
Tight
ends have a very long career path, so no.
Yeah.
23 is not like...
They can play it into the 30s a little bit.
For a running back, I would factor it, but for a tight end,
for running backs. Really. No, yeah.
For a running back,
he's going to be 24 mid-season, though. I think that's not nothing, but I think for me, you're playing with Josh Allen. That's as good of an offense as you can step into as a tight end. So
the comparables
not much.
are like Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, who are still 4+ years older, 6 years older. It's not. It's really not a big deal.
I don't know.
All right, last question, and then we get to get into some stuff with Hutch. Tank Dell, Jonathan Mingo, or Mims Jr.?
Mims. Mims is the only good prospect on this list. The other two are terrible. Terrible prospects. Mims.
Yeah.
I don't care that the other two have flashed in the preseason. Mims is just so much better.
I
Mims is a borderline elite.
Dell is not. It's not Dell for me, but I would take Mims.
There are just no players like Tank Dell who have really ever been good. He
is starting to intrigue me, though, but he is the outlier. I'd give me the 6'2", 220, 4.46 slot.
Tank Dell, it's hard to bet on a player who would be the first ever. For someone who's going to be the first ever, I kind of have to
Devontae Smith was pretty good. He weighs like 170. Like, he's close.
Tank Dell is not Devontae Smith. Tank
Dell's not close to that anyway.
He's 5'8". Devontae Smith is almost 6 feet.
Yeah.
Devonta Smith also destroyed the SEC and put up like video game numbers.
Trophy.
Yeah.
There are other things. Marvin Mims is not exactly large.
He made Mac Jones look great.
No,
5'11", 177. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With this one,
it's so small that he would be the first ever, and that didn't work for Tutu Atwell. So
I think I almost as much Tutu
I'm
Atwell.
gonna have skepticism on Tank Dell until I see him producing. I need to see him producing.
How much does Tank Dell weigh again? Not Tank Dell. How much does Tutu Atwell weigh again? Wasn't he like
160?
Yeah.
I think Dell's like slightly bigger, but
I'm almost 150.
Yeah.
He weighed.
I mean,
think
Tavon
he's
Austin
very
was 5'8", 185 and did nothing in the NFL and he was
And
the
he's even
human joystick
smaller,
coming
yeah.
out. Yeah, he's even
I
smaller
think
than
Dell's
that.
even smaller. He's giving
will-
17, 18 pounds on that 185.
I will
Looking at
say with those 3,
175.
I think Jonathan Mingo is going to be used as a possession slot receiver. And I think at 6'2", 220 with a 4'4", 640 out of those 3 guys. And I know a lot of people like Mims, but I'm big on size. Like I want you to be having the opportunity to be that alpha wide
Mingo
receiver.
Is one of these 3 that I could that has the biggest chances of being number 1 wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, he's the only one I think out of those 3 that has the chance of doing that. Mims has the easiest path to being fantasy relevant. Mingo's got the higher ceiling to me. I usually go with the higher ceiling out of those guys, so I'd go Mingo.
I would agree there. Yeah. I don't see Mims being a number 1, especially with Judy there if they give him extension. And yeah, I would still go with Mims. I trust the talent much more. I don't trust the talent of Mingo at all, but I would just play devil's advocate with Mingo, say he does have the higher ceiling.
Mingo has a significantly higher ceiling, but
Yeah.
I think that in 2 years, Jonathan Mingo is not going to be starting in the NFL. And I think Marvin Mims absolutely will be.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with
I
Marvin.
think that's fair. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Jonathan Mingo. Prospect profile says bust on every single metric, essentially. Whereas Marvin Mims, pretty much every indicator says he's going to be good.
Yeah, Marvin Mims is
For that reason, I have to go with Marvin Mims. I also will say with Marvin Mims, Tim Patrick getting hurt again helps because this gives Marvin Mims a path to see the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily he's going to produce, but see the field. We're going to see him in the NFL. We're going to see if he can really. We're going to have some more information than we would have had otherwise, because they don't really have anyone at wide receiver 3. So Marvin Mims is going to be that now.
Marvin Mims could be the number 2 in that offense if Cortland Sutton really is that dead in the water.
Well,
he is just he's just disastrous right now.
Cortland Sutton is terrible, but I think he'll trot out there as the least efficient, real starting X wide receiver in football for like the 4th year running. That's what he is. I mean, he is one of the worst receivers who's gotten this much opportunity, maybe ever. Who's had this much opportunity, this many chances, and that would be that bad. There really is no one else who's had
he's been bad.
that many targets and has been as poor as he has on all of them. That Cortland Sutton. Name one. It's really tough to have someone who actually retained their target share despite sucking so much.
He had to put up a 1,000-yard season.
But he was terrible.
He wasn't very
terrible. But that's an understatement of the century. Can't separate. Doesn't do well with contested catches. Catch rate is horrible. Can't run routes. What can he do? Be tall? That's it. Can't do anything else. It's like if Mike Evans were terrible at football. That's what Cortland Sutton is. Terrible. NFL teams are learning from that. They're not employing players like this anymore, if you've noticed. They don't employ players who are just tall and who are bad at football. They don't get employed. We're noticing a lot smaller receivers coming into the NFL because size is not everything. You're better off with the 5'11", 200 guy who can play over the 6'4", 230 guy who can't. Made a trade in my Dynasty League. Moved Javonte in a 24 first and received Breece in a 25 third. What do we think about that?
That's close, but I think I'd take Hall. If it's a mid to late first, I think I'd take Hall, but it's definitely
there's our background.
It's definitely I don't think it's like insanely. I don't think it's insanely like Hall.
I'd lean Hall, but this is getting closer.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
Javonte's rising in value for me.
He really is.
Falling. But
Davante
I'd lean Hall. Hutch, tell us about the FF Expo in intro segment 3 over an hour and a half into the show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Neither of you guys went, right? No one else on this show went.
Nobody else on the show at all went.
Yeah, so For those of you who haven't heard, the Fantasy Football Expo, shout out to Bob Long, who puts it together every year for the past 4 years. It's basically a convention out in Canton, Ohio, right next to the Hall of Fame. And it's where fantasy football analysts, fantasy football fans, or just football fans in general can meet up, interact, and party. There's tons of events everywhere. It's really a fantastic weekend that Bob Long puts together. And if you have not been, I suggest you go next year. The dates for next year are August 9th through 11th, that weekend.
Should I go?
Tyler,
I'll go if you go, Tyler. I'll go if you go next year.
You will.
Tyler,
I will.
Will you take me there?
Yeah, maybe we could try it. Actually, that's not a bad idea. That's drivable distance.
Knowing what you were saying to me about how you felt about crowds of the live draft for the Scott Fish Bowl, I feel like you'd hate the expo.
Probably.
I feel like you'd hate it. There's just like the entire weekend just talking to people. That's what it is the entire time.
It's funny. I'm a very extroverted person, but I'm also kind of antisocial. It's very weird. Very weird combination. Like,
yeah.
I like hanging out with people who like me because then I can kind of be mean, which is like my actual self, as this is my real personality. It's not an actor show. Hutch knows. He's met me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just as mean in person
just me.
as I am on the show. Not mean, but you know what I mean. I'm like this, and it doesn't always go great. And I don't really like large crowds, a lot of strangers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so probably wouldn't love it.
The expo last year was like 500 to 1,000 people there. It was a lot of people. Like it was a giant crowd. Oh yeah. And
how was Dez?
What? Yeah, so I was just about to get into that. So there were so the last 2 years there's been a flag football tournament, and this year Dez Bryant. I mean, obviously you all know who Dez Bryant is.
We all know who that is. Yeah,
all know who Dez Bryant is. If you don't look, if you've been living under a rock for a while, look it up. Dez Bryant, future Hall of Fame wide receiver.
This show and doesn't know who Dez.
I don't know. There are some people who are. There are some people who are just dumb. There are some people who are just dumb and don't know.
I don't think that's a population.
But anyways, so Dez Bryant put together a team with his company, Personal Corner. Really great company, by the way. They do good stuff and good fantasy content as well. They do all kinds. Dez Bryant does really fun stuff in the fantasy community.
Looking for a job, by the way.
What?
Personal Corner is listening. I'm looking for a job. Call me.
Shout out, yeah. But Dez Bryant, anyways, he put together a Personal Corner team for the flag football tournament. He was going to play, and he ended up playing quarterback all day, going easy on everybody, and he still ended up winning the tournament. He looked horrible as a quarterback. I mean, he was fine accuracy wise, but his form was terrible, and he was also throwing left-handed. It looked weird. But no offense to Dez if you're listening to this, but the quarterback form was definitely not NFL ready. It definitely did not look like an NFL quarterback or a quarterback at all. But they ended up winning the tournament, and I actually catch him alone for a second. I mean, Dez was actually really impressive to watch at the Fantasy Football Expo. He was so nice and so kind, and he looked so happy to be there. And you could see it on his Twitter account. You can see it in the videos he made on Twitter. He was really just happy to be there, and he was signing autographs, taking pictures left and right, talking to people. He was like, you know how you think of a celebrity where it's like, oh, they might be really mean to people in public. You know, you think about that. They're like really actually like they look cool on TV, but actually they're really mean. Like Dez was the opposite. Like, sure, you can shout out Ellen, yeah. Dez was the opposite of that. Dez was just the kindest, like one of the kindest like people you could ever meet, like one of the kindest celebrities you could probably ever meet. But anyways, I catch him a moment alone. He's tossing football with a buddy, and I just started talking to him. I introduced myself, and I listen to the Personal Corner spaces he does with Luke every Monday evening, pretty much. And I love listening to him. And I love seeing him on Twitter on this fantasy football stuff. So I tell him I'm a big fan, and I tell him a little bit about me and what I do fantasy football content creation wise. And he thought it was really, really cool. And we started talking, and he at the end he said, "Dude, we're gonna get you on a Personal Corner space." And it was just insane. And I was like, "That would be incredible. Thank you so much." And we got a picture together, and it was really, really great. I did post it on Twitter. You could find it somewhere.
It's there. I saw it.
It's probably buried by now because I posted so many things from the expo. But he actually quote tweeted it when I posted that picture, and he said,
"You gain a lot of followers from that."
A couple hundred over the weekend, yeah. But he quote tweeted it, but he said really interesting. He said he was something like, "It was awesome meeting you," and then right below it he said PC Weekly Show with a question mark.
Ooh.
Personal Corner Weekly Show. And ever since he's been liking a lot of my tweets, following my stuff, we've interacted a couple times on Twitter. I have a DM waiting for him for an idea for a Personal Corner show. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, so we're still waiting on that. But there might be some content creation coming with Dez Bryant soon, which would be.
I mean, Dez follows me. You want me to invite him?
He does follow me. He did follow me.
You know what hurt? I actually tagged Tyler in a post with Des Bryant asking Des to come on this show. And he followed Tyler. I got nothing.
Wow.
It hurt.
Wow.
It hurt. He's like, I'll follow one guy, not that guy.
Oh, wow.
No, but much love to Des. I played in he had a tournament that he did on Sleeper last year. There were like 12 divisions, and I ended up winning my division in it and got to get like a free invite or an automatic bid into the Scott Fish Bowl and stuff like that. So it was a good time, and it was fun having him in the space and starting to get involved. So hopefully he continues to make that impact in the fantasy community.
He was truly excellent. Like I watched some of the people talking. He looks really nice, but to talk to him in person, like he was so nice. He was truly just so nice, and it was unbelievable.
Well, we're lucky,
insane.
we're lucky that we have someone so high profile promoting the community.
Yeah.
And he seems like a very genuine person, and I
really
love to
is.
see that.
Yeah.
Very appreciative of the fantasy community, and a lot of NFL players aren't. So it's nice to.
Yeah, a lot of them hate us.
A lot of them do.
They hate us nerds.
Josh Jacobs has me blocked on Twitter. I said, I think I figured out why. He searches his name because I've never tagged him. I said Josh Jacobs should show up to camp and collect his $11 million that is going to be pulled off the table very soon if he doesn't appear. And he didn't like that. So he blocked me. Oh, well.
Dang.
Scribble says Cortland Sutton is going to finish top 12. Who's with me? Not
no
me.
one.
No one.
I'm good. Yeah,
I'll bring back, you know what? He was a guest on this show at some point. I will bring back 2022 Andrew Erickson can be with you.
Nice.
One of my favorite guests I've had on this show, but that was a whopper. That was a whopper.
I did like that last year as well. I thought I targeted.
I hated him
last year. I targeted a little bit, but I targeted both him and Judy.
I begged people not to draft him.
Yeah.
I was like so out on Cortland Sutton. I had the same speech as last year, as this year. So where are we? Did we even get to the preseason takeaways? We're not getting to. I don't think we're getting to the redraft wide receiver discussion. That's okay. We can push that back until next week. We'll give it another try. So preseason takeaways. So Hutch, you had a bunch of them. Tell me about this thing about Dameon Pierce.
So yeah, I mean Dameon Pierce, when you look at the stats for the Texans this past week in preseason, he got no touches, no action, nothing for Dameon Pierce. What?
That's good.
Couldn't be better. It couldn't be better for Dameon Pierce because Devin Singletary was out there getting some touches, and it shows that the Texans clearly value him as their RB1. He's their clear-cut guy, and they don't, because he's not injured. He's not holding out. He's 100% fine to play. There's no problems whatsoever. But they decided, nope, we're not going to play him because we value him as our RB1, and we have big plans for him this season. Usually you see stud running backs, like workhorse running backs, or like close to workhorse running backs, get this level of treatment. Like guys like Saquon, McCaffrey will probably get that treatment this year. Dameon Pierce is getting it. And if Dameon Pierce can get a close to workhorse role, obviously no running backs get workhorse roles anymore, but if he can get a big time workload with a little bit of passing work sprinkled in, because he did flash as a pass catcher last year. I feel like it's a very underrated part of his game. He did flash that in that area last year. If he can get a really nice workload in both areas of the game, bless you, Tyler, he will be he will be a fantastic fantasy football running back with the talent he has and the aggression he runs with that coaching staff that knows how to make a running game work and knows how to play good defense. Like this could be a really big breakout year for Dameon Pierce. And he's like, his ADP isn't moving up because no one's paying attention to
which
this.
I don't I feel like Dameon Pierce and Brian Robinson are two guys that have had great rookie seasons, continue to the momentum into training camp, have solidified number one roles, and they're just ADPs are just both set. Now, Dameon Pierce certainly on a different level, but Brian Robinson also recovered from a gunshot wound and played it.
Robinson very low.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, the staff, he is getting such a large workload though this year that I feel like he's going to beat his ADP. I don't think he's got the upside of a Dameon Pierce, but those guys, just from an ADP perspective, I end up with a lot of shares of.
I can see a world where Dameon Pierce is a top 5 back this year. His talent is just on a different level. The aggression he runs with is just on a different level. He could get there. Or near there. He can get near there.
I don't think he's got the receiving upside to get there, and I think it's the same with Brian Robinson. I think that'll both those guys will be limited to that. But
yeah, it's fair because he's probably not going to be like a 50 catch kind of guy, and the offense isn't going to be unless CJ Stroud has a ridiculous season, which I don't know how he does it with that receiving core.
Don't see it.
He probably will be limited in the touchdown range.
I think that
top five might be a stretch, but top 10
probably get to 10.
Yeah, he can get to top
not
10.
much above that.
Yeah,
and then Hutch, you also talked about some stuff with the rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I was not like when you look at it, I'm not worried. Like, I don't care about struggles with rookie quarterbacks in the first couple of games. Like, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, some people are like legit like concerned about them. I've seen Twitter everywhere. I mean, Twitter's a wild place, but there are some people that are legit concerned about CJ Stroud, especially watching him throw that interception, watching him be a little panicked in the pocket. Don't be worried at all. There's just no
reason to worry. Before they've played in a real NFL game.
It's the first week. It's the first week of preseason. It doesn't matter.
Bad that the Colts named him the starter after that performance. So
yeah, exactly. Like what? Like come on. Like there's just no reason to worry. There's no reason to worry.
All right.
Well, I did like though. Bryce Young, he played well. He played well, but I loved seeing him because rookie quarterbacks, especially when you look at younger guys, when you take big hits, sometimes it gets really scary for them. Standing in the pocket, being confident in the pocket after taking a couple big hits is really hard for a younger quarterback. Bryce Young had that pocket poise. He really did. And he took some brutal hits, but made some really accurate throws while taking hits. Stood confident in the pocket, wasn't playing fragile. He looked really good in the pocket. I was really impressed.
Yeah. That is why he was drafted where he was, because Bryce Young, that is his special it factor. He does not get flustered in the pocket. He's very smart.
He's so polished.
He is so polished. He does not get I love seeing he was under pressure all game and he was to be able to keep going with it. And he had a really solid game when he played in the snaps. A really solid game.
Ryan, you did put these on the show sheet, so I want to give you the opportunity to talk about them.
Go for it, Ryan.
In the redraft wide receiver discussion, which we're now getting to. Hour 45 minutes in. Tell me why you think the Michael Pittman hate has gone too far.
I think Michael, we talked about it a lot on the show, and I've lowered his ADP, and then I started looking to where I lowered it, and I still feel like he's going to get the volume in the offense. I still think he's going to be the focal point from a receiving perspective, and I think that because I think he's getting hurt a little bit too much on the rookie quarterback piece. I don't think Anthony Richardson's going to be bad enough where he should be falling outside of the top 20, 25 guys from a redraft perspective. I see him going at 34 in some instances and dropping pretty far. Pittman, to me, has a lot of upside from there, and I think he's going to give you steady value. So I think we've gotten to the point, and I'm down on him a little bit too. He's not very high in my rankings, but I do think the hate has gotten a little bit too far. And if Anthony Richardson's anything as a passer, that Pittman's going to outperform where he's getting drafted right now.
I think it's fair to go for it. Sorry, guys.
Is that most rookie quarterbacks don't support a top 35 wide receiver, and the ones that are usually
really good.
The ones that do are usually elite passers as rookies, Justin Herbert, or they have a receiver who was already elite. This is neither of those. It's neither of them. Anthony Richardson as a rookie, I can tell you, is not going to be an elite passer.
Yeah,
exactly. Is that he runs a lot and is great for fantasy, but he's not going to be an elite passer as a rookie. He could develop into that in his career. But as a rookie, Anthony Richardson was a horrific college passer. He's not going to be elite or even good. He's going to be bad as a passer, as a rookie. Michael Pittman is not elite. I think it's very clear. He wasn't elite last year. He was inefficient on his volume. He didn't do enough on those targets, and he's never hit that elite range. However, he's good. It's hard. I can't rank Michael Pittman at 40. I just think that he's too good to be ranked at 40. I have him ranked at 30, which is my way of compromising.
I can't picture a world, and I may be dead ass wrong on this. I can't picture a world with his reception totals that he has from a volume perspective to put up that he doesn't finish in a top 30. I mean, he played with Carson Wentz, who was pretty miserable when he played with Carson Wentz and put up 88 and over 1,000. He played with Matt Ryan, who did not look good last year at all, and a bunch of backups, and put up 99 receptions for 925. That is a volume-based receiver. It almost reminds me of like Jarvis Landry back in the day when he'd get a lot of hate and people would always fade him, and then he'd always end up as a top 20 guy because he'd get the volume. That's what Michael Pittman feels like to me in this situation. So I do think the value, I think he's a value at where he is now. I think he keeps slipping, he keeps falling because everyone's worried about it. At the end of the day, there's a small group of receivers that can put up 80, 90 plus receptions in fantasy football. Michael Pittman's one of them. So I do think the hate's gone too far.
Here's the problem. Would you take the over or under on Anthony Richardson at 38.54 passing yards?
Under 38.54.
What's the line?
38.54.
That's my line. 3,854. You want the over or the under?
I think I know where you're going with this,
Passing
and I was about to go the same direction, Tyler.
I'd probably go the under.
I'd go the under by a lot. How about 35.88?
Under.
You want the over or the under?
I take the under on 3,000.
Take the under on 3,000.
Yep.
The Vegas line's around 3,200.
I take the under. I think he's like, I think he'll be right around 3,000. Assuming he starts.
Why do we all love Darren Waller as a tight end in this offense, and everyone's talking about him with a guy who's not gone over 3,200 yards, hasn't supported that offense?
Because he plays tight end. Because he
because plays tight end, that's different than playing receiver. Yeah. It's different.
Yeah, you can play tight end. There are very few tight ends. That's why. That's the only reason. To be a good tight end in fantasy, if Darren Waller has the stats I'm giving Michael Pittman, he's a top 5 tight end.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I think people are starting to talk about him as like Darren Waller should be the number 2 tight end. I heard people. Yeah, we talked about it last week. Someone said Darren Waller should be the.
I don't agree with that either. I think that's right.
But
so I think,
if Darren Waller,
I do think Pittman's going to be a lock for top 25. I genuinely think that. So I think that is where the hate has gotten too far. I don't think he's going to be a top 12 guy, maybe not top 15 kind of guy like he's had that opportunity to be. But in PPR,
no ceiling.
Ryan, I just have a quick question. Like Ryan, I genuinely want to just play something out real quick. So we're thinking, where are we thinking Anthony Richardson's passing yards? Because his prop is at 3,200. Is that? Do we want to call? I think
that's fair for 3,200.
Number.
Like 3,200?
Number for me, 3,200, yeah.
3,200. Okay, so what do we expect Pittman's target share to be? What has it been in the last years? It's been around like, hasn't it been around?
3,200 for the record is 188 passing yards a game, which I think is a good number. I really
solid.
do.
That's a solid number. That's a number that's doable, but he could go under that. He could easily go under that this year. Wouldn't not be shocked by it. He 50% completion in college. Like that, wouldn't be surprised by it. What's Pittman's target share been around the last few years? I actually don't. I feel like as far as
last year, he had 141 out of
25.6%.
25.6.
Yeah.
So if you do the math, so 3,200 times 0.25, it's 800 yards. So we're looking at 800 receiving yards. And if we're looking at a very low touchdown percentage, because Anthony Richardson's not going to be throwing like 25 plus touchdowns, that's just not going to be his range. He's probably going to throw under 20.
The only thing I'll fight back on that is, yes, because that's not the 25% too. Not all targets are created equal, though. So you get a lot of dump offs to running backs that eat up at that target share. So I think if he could keep that 25% target share, I think he's pretty much a lock for 900 yards. And that's where I start to say, when you talk about a PPR league, I think he's a lock for top 25. I'll be very surprised, me personally, very, very surprised if Michael Pittman is outside the top 25 in a PPR league. So for me,
he's more likely to be out of the top 40 than in the top.
Interesting.
40.
I would agree with that. Oh yeah, 100%. Like, because like when you look at the just look at the number, like you say 3,200 passing yards, which is fair, but he could finish lower than that. He could go lower than that easily, Anthony Richardson this year. And you look at 25% target share. That's a really high target share for a wide receiver. Really high. That's 800 receiving yards. And we know Anthony Richardson's not throwing many touchdowns.
And the other problem with Michael Pittman is if you look at him last year, he was not efficient.
No, not at all.
That he was inefficient. The whole offense was bad. But he wasn't efficient compared to the other receivers. And that's scary. He didn't really record a lot of yards per target. It's not like he was significantly better in terms of his catch rate than Paris Campbell. It's just, what is so special there? It didn't show up in the numbers. It did not show up in last year's numbers. So we're hoping that the talent comes together with a rookie quarterback. I'm going to have to wide receivers deep this year. It's very deep. There's a lot of good players. I mean, if you look at who I have Michael Pittman at 30. I have Chris Godwin at 25. I mean, I think that's a better bet because I'd rather take the Baker Mayfield passing yards, even though it's bad. Like Jerry Jeudy, I think pretty easily most people would have ahead of Michael Pittman at this point. And then you have other guys in kind of similar situations, like Deontay Johnson. I'd rather take my chances on the second-year quarterback and the one who has a better history of volume. So,
yeah,
I just can't. I just think
it's just such low passing yards that he's had surrounding him the last 2 years, though. It's not like these guys are throwing for like 3,800 yards or anything like that, or 4,000 yards on teams he's played on. So I think the floor for the regression is like, I think we're overselling what that regression may be because he's had such bad quarterback play for the last 2 years already. These aren't high. It's not like he went from a 4,500 yard passer to Anthony Richardson. He's going from low yardage totals to maybe 3,200. Like, okay, take off 100 yards from him maybe at best.
So last year, Michael was the wide receiver 24 in fantasy points per game. And I expect it to be worse. So 30 is good for me. 30 is good. I think, honestly, if I just looked at the numbers and didn't have Michael Pittman, the player, in my head, I would rank Michael Pittman in the 40s. And that's where the fantasy footballers have him ranked. So it's not crazy.
Yeah.
I
don't think it's crazy. I just think I personally will own a lot of shares.
He'd be in the 40s. The only reason he's higher is because that I know I have extra knowledge beyond the stats that say that Michael Pittman is good. He looks good. He plays well. He does look the part of a good wide receiver in the NFL. But that's the only reason he's even at 30.
Yeah, but the thing is,
numbers say he should be lower, not higher.
Even when you talk about Michael Pittman and his ADP, you talk about him. Where is he going? Like wide receiver 35-ish, wide receiver 40. Yeah, that's where he's going, right? Like you could put aside, like maybe he is a tad undervalued. Maybe he finishes as wide receiver 30. Maybe he gets like wide receiver 28. There is no ceiling though. Where is he going to go from wide receiver 30?
Though, it's good
There's
enough.
Just none. There's just
at
no
35,
ceiling.
It's good enough though. At 35, and if you take him and he finishes at wide receiver 25, there's value. The problem is that I can't really rank him above 30 because if I think the ceiling is 20 at best, really, I'd say is the ceiling. 20 in points per game is everything is perfect and it's 20. I can't take if 20 is the ceiling, 30 is the best I can do. And like I said, the bias is toward that I know he's good. And otherwise, if it were just based on the numbers, he'd be in the 40s. He'd have to be.
Yeah, and I don't hate the 30. I think once he starts getting into 34, 35, outside 40, and there are people ranking him there, that's where I think it's gone too far. 30, I think, is probably fair. I have him a little bit higher, but I do think the people who are putting him in the late 30s, 40s are out of their mind. Just my opinion.
Talent says he should be around 20. The situation says he should be around 40. Compromise, you put him at 30. That's where kind of I've reached.
His talent just isn't. He's talented, but his talent isn't enough to just break through Anthony Richardson.
Exactly. If I think he's the 20th best wide receiver in the NFL, then his talent is not good enough to break through a horrific situation. Exactly.
It's not.
I'm on the same.
He's
page.
not.
100%.
He's not a guy like Justin Jefferson or like Jamar Chase or one of these guys or Davante Adams who can play with that. Like Davante Adams, we all like some people were concerned about the downgrade from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr,
about Davante Adams.
and it didn't matter. Because he's just such a difference maker. Michael Pittman isn't that level. The situation is actually going to impact him. He's not that elite wide receiver.
Oh, do you have Commanders?
No, I'll stick on for this and then I'll drop.
I figured you would like this. Yeah.
Terry McLaurin can absolutely break top 20. He has broken top 20 already with way worse quarterback play. The offense looked, I don't know if anybody's paid attention in the last couple of days. They've done really well against the Ravens defense in these joint practices. It's the first time the offense has ever looked good in a joint practice. that I can remember as a Commanders fan. I think the enemy's a high energy guy that's brought a lot to this offense. I think he's going to be great for McLaurin. I think Howell's going to be as stable of quarterback play, if not better. And I think it's definitely going to be better than what McLaurin's thought. I think absolutely, I expect him to break top 20. Not can he break top 20. I'd be surprised if he doesn't break top 20 at this point.
Yeah. Eric Bieniemy's offense, I think Eric Bieniemy is going to do something really smart here with Sam Howell, a young quarterback who might be struggling. He's got to say, throw it to number 1 and throw it to number 17, and don't forget about it. Just forget about everybody else. Like, I think it's throw it to the open guys, throw it to the most talented receivers, and let them do the work. And McLaurin and Dotson are going to be able to have some success. And obviously, the quarterbacks will hold them back. Brissett
and McLaurin doesn't even have to be open to make plays. We saw that multiple times.
Passing yards in.
Yeah, Brissett will be better for fantasy than Sam Howell. I think that's actually true.
I think Sam Howell has a higher ceiling, but
higher ceiling, but
it is fine. So even with Brissett, McLaurin could break top 20. The reason I've been out of McLaurin for Dynasty is age, and that McLaurin's not gonna be top 10 without the elite quarterback. So if he's already turning 28 in the season, I'm out for Dynasty for that reason. No ceiling. No high-end ceiling, and old. So not in Dynasty, but in Redraft, I mean, I have McLaurin ranked at 22. So if I have him ranked at 22, obviously he can break the top 20.
Yeah.
I would say the ceiling is around 10 or 11. Best case scenario, realistically, is probably more like 14 or 15.
That's fair.
I think it would have to be pretty perfect with every touchdown regression going his way to break wide receiver 1, but 14 or 15 is a realistic ceiling. And Terry McLaurin's floor is a lot higher than Michael Pittman's. Healthy Terry McLaurin's not going to be outside the top, 30 in fantasy points per game at worst. If everything goes wrong, realistic floor is probably more like 25, 26 in fantasy points per game. He's not going to be worse than that, even if everything goes wrong. So,
I mean, even last year, McLaurin was the 14th overall wide receiver last year in PPR. He was in the top 25 the year before. I forgot exactly where it was. Yeah. He was actually the 25th the year before. So I think that the floor is pretty low with McLaurin as well. And I think you're going to get better quarterback play than he's ever seen. So, I mean, he's gone 20, 25, 14 the last 3 years. Absolutely can break that top 20.
Yeah. He's someone that I'm not super in on compared to his price, but he can absolutely break the top 20, even if I don't have him ranked there.
Yeah, he could definitely.
I think we're done. Right?
It's been a wonderful evening, guys. Please, if you're listening, come follow me on Twitter. I want to talk pizza with you guys. I want to talk fantasy football at WhatGibbsFF. Let's go. Come follow me.
Oh wait, last quick question for you guys. Just a quick answer. Did you guys see Anthony Richardson's rap video? No. And if so, what'd you think?
Did not.
No,
I did not.
You need to find it. You need to find the.
I will look for that.
No, you need to find it.
I will look for it tonight.
Great. It's great.
I'll look for it. If you
it's all over Twitter. You'll find it.
If you stuck with us this long, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Donate to the Venmo if you want to support me. Sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/fantasyadvice. Watch the Ask Tyler from yesterday. I posted a link. It's the most viewed Ask Tyler that we've ever had. And we'll have this every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back next week, and we'll be talking redraft running backs. Maybe it'll take an hour and a half to get there like it did this week. We'll see how much news there is. But until next time, I will see you guys all later. Thanks for being a great audience. And
thanks, everyone.